What's up, guys? Welcome back to TCGScrubs podcast. I'm Oscar, and joined with the same guys as usual. We got Colin from Team ARG.
Yo,
we got Joey from Joe's Corner, which he had one a couple weeks ago, where he covered his predictions for.
It was like 60% correct,
which turned out no. I think based on what
happened,
I would say Joey.
Listen. I'm on.
I said.
But you didn't get 3, I think, of the top 8, and that's going to be Gil and the 2.
Well, I mean, Tigris doesn't count twice. Tigris doesn't count twice.
Those are big. First off, at 100% counts twice.
Okay,
100%.
I mentioned there was a.
We'll talk about this later. So we got a lot. Well, let Oscar finish.
Sorry, I allowed that to happen. Joey. My bad. All right, so welcome and thank you for joining us, everybody. And as usual, don't forget to support us at link in the description below for Happy Little Hug Factory. They have some awesome stuff going on here, which we have a video coming up soon. Hopefully that is super duper soon, so you're not waiting too long. And beyond that, you can find singles and some sealed product there still, such as pre-orders probably coming up sometime soon for the next set, and a Buylist, so you can maybe sell some cards already, kind of save up some money to get that new set coming up soon. But whatever you do, make sure to visit the link in the description below so they know that we sent you guys over. And then also to patreon.com/TCGScrubs, where we have some supporters there too. We do some cool stuff, such as a Patreon podcast and some deck reviews, which me and Colin need to record one soon. Hopefully we record that tomorrow night, and that'll go up there maybe by Friday. And yeah. So thank you guys for joining us. We have a lot to talk about today. Mm-hmm. Really interesting stuff. Let's start up.
It might be a longer podcast, and if not, anything we missed talking about will spill into the mini podcast just because we got.
And I think this is coming out a day early, right, Colin? You said you're going to edit this.
That should be really cool.
Sunday night.
Yeah, I'm going to attempt to at least.
I'm sorry if I seem like not distracted. Yeah. I'm trying to bring up the top 8 list event so that I can eventually talk about it on my phone.
That's fine. So. Something I wanted to start off talking about, some smaller thing, is the product lineup was announced for the next year. And I thought that was interesting only because I accidentally came across it. And I don't think anybody had posted it yet, but everybody started posting it today like they had found it. I was like, I was already ahead of you guys. But anyways, so it has the full year laid out, not just the rest of this year, the full year, which I found was interesting because I happened to find it just a few hours after somebody had already made a post speculating that there would only be 3 sets this cluster. And comes out that it was delayed. So first of all, the next set is delayed.
And real quick, just so it makes sense, the speculation was because of the timing of the set. So if the new cluster started when it usually does, that means there's physically not enough time for a 4th set. But it turns out
it's because I think the 4th set would drop exactly when the next cluster get ready to start up. But no, and I also want to point out the next set that's coming out, which is what Awakening of the Ancients. It's actually set for pre-release the same day as Magic's pre-release, which I thought was interesting, and which was kind of an issue because our LGS, as I'm sure anybody's LGS is Magic based, and our LGS has events where she has to bust out extra tables and put them in like these little. If you've been to our LGS, it's hard to explain. There's this section with computers, and it's meant for the people to sit there and maybe lean back, or whatever. But they're assuming nobody's going to be there, and you put tables between those.
Yeah, Joe knows what I'm talking about. The way you said, like, well, if you've been to our LGS, like, nobody's been to our LGS. Maybe like 4 people watching this.
Hey, we've had 4 some people watching this
podcast like have been to our LGS. It's just
Roderick and Sam and all the Dallas people. Anyways,
that's a good point. That's
true. Go watch our vlogs. You'll see some of our LGS.
Make sure it's the vlogs at Mothership.
She has to bust out tables. Yeah, she has to bust out. You can even look up Mothership on Facebook. Tell them Oscar says hi. But she has to bust out extra tables just to fit everybody, and it goes over the whole weekend. Like that's every Magic release. She's like stressed out because she works from Friday night when it starts pre-release nonstop till Sunday night, and then they go and they celebrate.
That's pretty cool.
But now they have us to deal with, which we've been growing in numbers on pre-release. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I messaged her and she was like, sigh. Yeah, I saw that was happening. We'll see. We'll make it work. Wow. So it's interesting. But anyways, back to the main thing of the project lineup is everything's been pushed back. So this next set comes out pre-release end of April. First week of April is the actual release date. And then I don't have the product lineup pulled up, but I know that the next set doesn't come out till August. And that means the cluster doesn't start until November when it normally starts in September, which is usually when Worlds takes place and all the products already been out for at least 20 days and Worlds happens, which makes me wonder, like, does that change the date for Worlds? Does it mean Worlds happens later? How's that all going to play out? Is it going to be instead a celebration at the end of the cluster as opposed to the beginning of the next cluster, you know?
Especially, this is very important if someone had already got an unpaid invite and smartly bought their ticket ahead of time to make it cheaper, which is still, by cheaper, I mean like a minimum of $1,000 unless
I think that's kind of also, okay, two things. Well, no, that's just one thing. I misheard what you said. I don't think they've given the dates out of when Worlds is happening. They usually wait a while, like about 2 months beforehand, I thought.
Yeah, that would be...
So I don't think there's actually
a lot of advanced foresight if people like pre-bought their ticket based on when last. I mean, it's not a bad idea. Like I wouldn't be like, wow, how could you?
Well, kind of, because sorry about the interruption. But so Joey, if you went by trends of when Worlds took place every year, last year's was actually an outlier. It was pushed forward or backwards by 2 weeks, if I remember correctly. So even then, you couldn't be like, I'm gonna think preemptively and buy my ticket. Or you could also technically say you're covering a week and maybe take a vacation in Japan or something like that. But I don't feel anybody's actually gotten tickets to Japan, so I don't think that part's an issue necessarily.
Probably that's why I say smartly. I don't think anyone has, but if someone has the money and has the invite, the smart thing to do would be and you're for sure going, is to get it now, because the closer you get, the more expensive it gets, especially when other people start buying tickets.
It would be a little
just pushes the price up.
I guess I'd say ballsy to like base it off of like last year's, the previous years, but without knowing the actual date that they set it for. Just like, oh, I'm pretty sure it's on the 22nd, and then like, especially with all this stuff starting to happen. But
something else I noticed that was pretty interesting. If you look at, I don't know if you clicked on the links. I did a print of a PDF of the page just in case it went down or something like that, like it was supposed to be out. But I don't know if it's a placeholder name or if it's maybe a hint or reveal of what the next cluster could be. But I noticed that the first set and the second set, the links were like FOWTCG.com/ I think product / T1. And then the other one was T2. So I was like, well, we got V1, V2, V3, V4. You know what I'm saying? That's their naming conventions for sets when they're in the clusters and whatnot. So I was like, I wonder if that's what that will end up being. It's something that has to do with the letter T. So welcome back, everybody. We got Jeff with us now. What's up, Jeff?
Whoa.
And for the topic we're just talking about a second ago about the product lineup, we'll go talk about that in the Patreon podcast as well as the WGBK Vegas results. Instead, got some stuff we can talk about now while Jeff's here. So Colin, you want to take over from that?
Yeah, so obviously the big thing, and it's probably at minimum, or it's probably in the title now, or hinted at in the title. So I wanted to put this at the front, was Iji, the CEO of Force of Will, is no longer with the company. So if this is something we had mentioned a long time ago, if you guys were patrons. And so it's officially came out from him. And he, we won't go over his this is a post on his personal page, so I'm not going to go over verbatim. I'm just going to skim over it real quick, so you guys just know essentially just his intent of the idea behind it. So he basically said he's done with his trading, his specific trading card journey. He said he needs to leave the TCG project and let another company take it over. I'm somewhat paraphrasing because it's it's not perfect English, so if it comes across incorrect from what his intent was, I apologize ahead of time, because we're having some debate about this.
He asked me, he's like, Jeff, is my English okay? And I was just like, I haven't read it yet. I was sleeping.
Yeah, we were talking back and forth on specifically what he meant about other company take it over, but he said he needs to say goodbye to Force of Will. He said, and he basically went over, he said the world always tried to support us. He said, thank you to our global liaison's hard work, Jeff here. He saved us really a lot. And thanks all of you guys. I could not believe the world could connect with the, or all of you guys that could believe the world could connect with the same philosophy. Once again, I'm doing my best here. He said and basically goes on to say he's essentially very sad to leave, but he the new company that took over needs time to prepare, but they soon will show you how the wonderful game can come back, and he thanks everyone for their support and all that. It was a really nice post, and I was telling Jeff and stuff that like actually reading it, like for sure, like this actually for sure happened. Like I got pretty sad. Like if you had seen our Patreon video, we were like. I had mentioned like you know I don't really feel sad at that point. It would probably hit me when it actually happens, and so it hit me there. I was like, yeah, well, shoot.
But he had so much, you know, hope in the game, and like
it's such a very specific figure. If you ever saw any of the promotional videos on Force of Will,
he's got a unique flair to him, and I told him like actually when I heard about it. It to me it's funny because it like obviously you guys are old enough to remember 9/11 and stuff, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so it's kind of one of those things like you'll always remember where you were, what you were doing, kind of thing. And while obviously not to that extent, like I remember like still exactly what I was doing. Like when he was just like, "Hey Jeff, we got to talk real quick." He called me and told me about it, and I was playing an online game, and I was just like speechless. I had no words, and it was just my character died, and I was like, whatever, don't care. And I was just like, just in this like, holy shit, I didn't think this was possible kind of thing. So it really, and things were happening so fast, so it's just like, wow. So Edgy has a special flair to him that like attracts good people, so that part I think is going to be the biggest loss.
Yeah, I think I was at work, right, Oscar? When I told you, because I think it was the day after the video. No, it wasn't.
No, we were at your house. We're at your house.
Yeah, that's right. You came over.
We're playing. Was it Settlers of Catan? And that's when you found out.
Yeah, because it was the day after we released the Quinn video, and I found that out. And I remember just like that. I had that initial like sinking feeling of like, oh no, because we also didn't have any other information accompanying it other than EG's no longer with them, and I was just like, yeah. So that does suck because he, as in case you guys don't know, he wasn't just CEO. Well, he created the game, and has been a very active part of it. It wasn't just like, I'm the CEO, I'm going to sit back and just let everyone else get me my monies or something. At least that wasn't the impression that I got and stuff. So it felt like he would visit GPs in other countries all the time and meet with players, and during like one of when Force of Will was going through a rough patch, he specifically went to events to hear players' concerns, to figure out what to do and stuff. Like, you can't think of any other card game that does that or did that.
That was right around that time. I think that was before I was announced, wasn't it?
I think it was a month before you were announced. It was right around December, and you were announced January,
February.
Yeah, during that whole thing.
Yeah, that was like the first step. Because I had been kind of behind the scenes since the WGP the year prior, and so like, because Jordan was there, and then he had stepped out, and then it went like complete radio silence. So I had messaged the leader of the design team and Eiji. I didn't know Eiji didn't live in Japan at the time, and so then Eiji actually got back to me, but just very briefly, and then slowly over time we started talking more and more and more and more until like, we really got a good feel for each other, and then kind of figured out what our plan going forward was going to be. And he's like, "Hey, by the way, do you want to work here?"
That's such a good story. You guys like teamed up, and Awesome.
If you can't tell, Joey loves slice of life animes and stuff.
I love hearing like actual info from people who are actually like in the in the know in the company.
Joey and I are the people who watched all the appendices on the Lord of the Rings DVDs and stuff.
We watched the behind the scenes of everything.
Those 8 hours.
I laughed at myself. Actually, my coworker laughed at me too because how it went down with it. It was a Friday after the WGP, a couple weeks or whatever, and like Jordan had messaged me that he was peacing out, and I was just like, all right, take it easy, man. Like, are you gonna stay in Japan for a little bit, or what are you up to? Anyways, but I saw the community was kind of like, yo, what the hell's going on? If you recall, this is the Fox Prisian meta, which was super garbage to play in, and at the time, being a player as well, I was just like, this is crap, because I want to play Kaguya and a bunch of garbage decks, and I can't right now, so I'm angry. So I wrote this, like, I was bored after lunch at work, and so I wrote this, like, 3-page PDF, like, outlining the future direction of how the game should go, and, like, the company's choices that they should make. And I sent it to AD and Ikeda, the designer, and Ikeda was just like, okay, thanks, we'll get back to you at some point, and never heard from him again. But then the AG read it, and he asked me a couple questions, and he asked like what I thought about team up, like Vingolf style, like partner ups and stuff. And I got back to him with like some statistical data based on the IP he was talking about and stuff. And he was just like, "Oh, you're not an idiot. Okay, let's talk slightly more." And blah blah blah. So yeah, good times. So being bored on a Friday and sending really annoyed, slightly passive-aggressive PDFs at CEOs sometimes works.
Sometimes.
Although not really related or on that level, that's literally how, like, I both the our videos for Anton and Quinn was both things of like, oh, I should cover this in our news, and then it was like, oh, I don't have anything to do tonight. Dig, and just me spend hours of like, and then they always turn. Those were the ones that always turn out to be some of our most popular stuff. Is those ones.
I rewatched your infomercial again the other day, and it made me laugh. And I know I was supposed to do a part of it, but I was just so busy. But like, I don't know if it was on purpose, but like the at the end. Just like that makes the video.
Yeah, no, I lost it when I heard that part.
Yeah, I think I was recording it, and then I forget why, but I was like, I got to because I kept on like re-recording lines and stuff, and it was one big thing, and so I was just at some point I just did that little thing, and I was editing, and I was like, I'll set that aside, and I was like, I don't know where to put this, and I was just like, well, that actually would go really good right here, and I was like, we'll see if people like that or not. I had a lot of fun making that. I want to do more stuff like that, but
I'll tell you a funny, quick story that has nothing to do with Force of Will, but also a lot to do with Force of Will. So I started dating a new girl last year, and so she Googled my name, and our interview came up, and so I realized now there's a lot of shit with my name on it, and so, like, she's like, I saw your video that you did for the company, and I didn't like your face in that one. But then I saw your face in your interview, and I liked you a lot more. And I was like, I don't know how to take that. Thanks, I guess. And it was like, I like your serious face. I don't like your smiling face. I'm like...
Oh, that's great.
I was like, this is a good and bad thing. If I ever like break up, like all my girlfriends in the future are just gonna like be scanning our interviews and This is what okay. Oh, this is him talking about stuff that he cares about. He said it was weird.
That's great.
Yeah, I guess.
Wow, it's really fucking bad in that video. It looks like a bum in that most recent one.
You should probably try and flatten down your hair a little bit more for your future girlfriend.
you need to do a different hairstyle each one. That way you're like foolproof. They're like, oh, I don't like what. Oh wait, this is the one. This is the one.
There you go. We'll get a little bit of
get the Doctor Who.
Temp Doctor stuff going. Anyway. So Oscar, you got the questions put up?
Yeah, so we have a list of questions and we you can say something?
I was gonna real quick say and if you could, Jeff, you could always say pass if you know what to answer. And Oscar, if you at any point you need to go to bed, you can peace out because I'm recording everything. So
you're not allowed to go to bed since I'm doing this.
Yeah. So. I can't go anyway. So with the list of questions we do have kind of came up during the Robert Stephanie statement release, and so we had people submit questions to us. So some of this may be not as relevant anymore now that we have more information come in, but we'll go ahead and read all of these. We do have 20 questions, so I'm sure not all of them will be addressed. But starting with number one is EG going to be okay, and does he have a good severance package?
So yes, he'll be okay. I think he's gonna get some kind of royalties and stuff. So like that's part of my incentive to keep Force Wheel doing good. So
and that's the benefit of creating a IP from scratch.
Right. So I don't know the specific details, but like obviously I know he wants Force Wheel to continue to do well.
Oh yeah.
And not sabotage it in any way. So that's, I assume, why the prolonged silence was making sure that it didn't step on anyone's toes. But, and like we're still good buddies. Like I go out to dinner with him and his family all the time. My girlfriend and I go out and eat with them, so we're good buddies. So yeah, he'll be okay. And I'm sure he's going to try and come up with a new thing because he is a businessman at his heart, so he'll find something.
That's how entrepreneurs work, right? So next question is, how does the decision chain of command tree work within the company?
Sorry, say that again?
I hit delete.
Control V.
How does the decision chain of command work within the company?
Now or before?
Is the only where kind of like where all this
came from?
All this started.
A vote came up at one point, and I think that's just how the stones landed. Basically, that's the non-incriminating version of everything.
And the other stuff that happened was essentially just side effects of that, like EG leaving indirectly. Well, we don't know the specifics, but in some fashion led to Robert leaving, and you leaving defaulted with all the stuff with the judge program. But we obviously we don't know the specifics of if that led to you leaving or anything like that.
That's actually one of the things that was going to be my post that I truncated to be much shorter. Maybe I'll post it sometime, but like I don't like global liaison is like my public duty kind of thing, but inside the company I did a lot of stuff. So it like the direct result was basically, and I'm sure people kind of know this to some degree, but like I was Reggie's Edgy's right-hand man for pretty much everything. And so like he would kind of give me, this is the direction of our company and it's something that we would talk about. And then I would create the actual plan of how we're going to get there and like what are we feasibly going to do to like take the steps to do that, and then who's going to execute it, etc. And so by removing AG, they were kind of it's not just the person, but the philosophy. And so being the executor of that philosophy, like, and the fact that my contract, like, actually says that my job was PR and marketing kind of stuff, they were just like, okay, like, we don't need, if our whole philosophy is changing now, then you're a part of that. So
Yeah.
Two questions from that. One, if because you said so that was sort of part of their changing up. If they had changed up, and would you have wanted to keep the position still, even with EG gone, if they had offered that?
If the philosophy of the company was the same, then yeah. Like, obviously, it was getting to a point where, like, this month, obviously, I think I told you privately, but to take care of some other stuff on the side. And so, like, was just getting so many messages now that the season's starting and the promos and everything else is going on, and dealing with Europe and everywhere else. And I was trying to work with Dragon Shield and Rudy and TCG Player and all these other things. So, like, it was so much going on, and I'm not complaining, and it's nice that I have vacation time now to work on it, but it was a lot of work, and I like that, but there was no real support up to the English-speaking side from anyone inside the company. So I was trying to, like, build out a team so that I could do that, and that kind of got quabashed. And then from there, like, even if the only thing I did was kind of explain what's going on and then do the ban list stuff and then, like, little PR things, etc., I would have been okay with that. But maybe I was, like, I don't know. That part's complicated. Like, I love the game and its potential, but I can't work for people if I don't have any power to actually do anything, because I don't want to just spit hot gas, and I also don't want to work for a company that I either don't understand completely or I don't agree with their philosophy. Like, before I worked for Force of Will, I spent like 6 or 7 months getting to know everyone. Like, I have documents of, like, personality profiles of, like, everyone in the company, so, like, I knew how to interact with them and, like, what were their buttons and, like, how to best get what you need from them. And, like, also, like, Iggy and I sat down and spent a lot of time, like, figuring out what the soul or, like, the purpose of Force of Will really was. So then I could kind of throw myself all in because I backed that philosophy. And this new company, I don't know anything about them or what their true intentions are, etc. And maybe they're good, but I don't know that. So with everything else going on, it's just like I'd rather stand with Edgy, who I actually, like, am behind 100%.
Yeah, and the same thing I was going to say is just you were doing all that stuff, and I just want to point out to everyone that wasn't your only job. Also, you have another job.
I'm also a full-time professor.
Yeah,
and my research is slightly behind.
I thought it was really interesting hearing about how, like, you know, your official title was global liaison, but I'm sure, like, you wore a ton of different hats, and, like, you had tentacles and fingers in every, like, area. And, like, there's always, I find it interesting in like, my company, if our, like, IT director like, left, like, somebody coming in doesn't, like, he might be that might be his title, but, you know, he knows all the ins and outs of, like, the entire company. And once you lose that, it's not just like career skills that you lose, it's years of knowledge and, like, build up of this knowledge that you lose. And, you know,
it's like consolidation of all of that information.
Yeah.
And, like, inner workings. And that's what, like, I had joked probably about a year ago. I was like, I'm in more various groups than anyone else in this company, because I dealt with, like, the EU distributors and translation. I dealt with the US OP. I dealt with the retailers. I dealt with the players. I dealt with the ban list. I dealt with the translation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the list is hilarious. And, like, just they're even like Iggy and anyone, no one had more cross like group interaction than me, and that was my biggest concern. Was like when I left, was like I don't think they totally grasped that, because even like after they got rid of me, like the first week, they're still sending me proofs for the cards to check in like the booster packs to check the translations and stuff, and I'm like, guys, I don't work here anymore. Like,
right? It's like just like simple stuff that, you know, knowing the password to X like account. It's just there's so much you just goes, you know, you need to do a complete like reorganizing and everything.
Well, that's the kind of, I think that now there's no one that exists in the company that knows about the Twitch like channel.
Oh yeah.
Like I think everyone that knew about that is gone now. So I'm like, can I just use that as my personal?
I'm not saying you can do some cool stuff now.
Yeah. You're like, hey, here's Force of Will with Jeff on Friday nights.
Friday Night Force.
No, that's really interesting. I think that's fascinating.
Oscar?
But you're right, Joe.
Yeah. So I think this one kind of goes with the concern most people have right now in the way the game's going. But can you recommend getting into Force of Will to new players at this time?
That's a good one. Like my good side in me, like my hopeful side, says like, yes, the game is still fun and it's super cheap, and like if I guess I've always, I don't see card games as an investment in, like, I don't know why like this just popped into my head, but as I'm sitting here saying that, I'm like, card games are not an investment. By the way, here's my page. But I don't see them that way. Like I've bought every single Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Force of Will, whatever card, always with the assumption that I'm buying this card for the entertainment and happiness value it provides me. And should I at some point resell them if I want to, then that's cool. But like I bought Underground Seeds for like $50 back in the day, and I was happy to just be like, I can justify this because even if the game dies tomorrow, I have friends and I can play it, and I would still be happy 20 years from now, regardless of what happens with the company. And I still feel the same way. Like, guess what I have outright is, I don't know if you can see this, but this is my flag-ass Chrono-only Croco Shark deck.
Oscar's jelly.
So, like, I still, you know, not repping any other company. But
Oscar just
like,
was freaked out.
I would still recommend getting into Force of Will if you enjoy playing card games for fun. If you like playing with your friends, if you like good gameplay, if you like good art, and you just want to have a good time, I still think it's the best on the market, bar none. And I've played Magic for like 25 years, and it's just nowadays Magic doesn't have that same feeling for me. Where like Force of Will community is small enough where there still is a lot of creation, and yes, a lot of the super meta decks are figured out. But if you go like one step below that, and even actually nowadays I kind of fixed that, so there's not a clear answer. But like
Hi, Chris.
They're humble brag. Sorry, but there's so much like fun tier 1.5, tier 2 decks. Like I made this garbage Kunlun like plus 300 like 1-drop red swiftness deck, but we started dying laughing because it was like 1-drop 1600s once you get a bunch of Kunluns out, and you're just like, oh, I guess that's a problem. So like, yes, I think Force of Will as a game is still the best on the market as far as fun, enjoyable, and worth playing. Now, on the, I bought this card at $2 and I'm going to make $2.50 in 3 months, and if I don't, fuck, this game is dying. I think those people are in the wrong market if their margins are like 50 cents on like 10 cards. Like that's what kills me, I guess. Like nothing against investors, and like I get they're an essential part and whatever. Like, and in Magic, they're liquid enough where it's kind of okay. But like, to me, it just feels like if you have that kind of money, why don't you buy stocks or like cryptocurrency, like something that's actually liquid that like intelligent people are going to invest in, rather than like children's card games. It's good to be diversified, but still, like, I have a bug with those like wannabe investors or like backpack investors. I'm like, homie, you got $100. Why don't you go buy a fucking job application?
I think the only problem right now, currently, and this might be problem solved, maybe hopefully soon, but is to get into Force of Will currently is relatively expensive because starter decks are now really expensive, which has the rulers you need, and that's the only, I think, hurdle. That and the older booster boxes because they are hard to find a lot of them for cheaper, and that's the only. Going forward, I think future booster boxes, they're super affordable. You get the play sets, and once the new starter decks come out next cluster, you're perfectly fine. But specifically right now, it's a weird spot of like, do I want to spend $40 on a starter deck?
Yeah, that's like, and it kills me because I told them since literally last year, like around this time of the year, they were finishing up the new Valhalla designs and stuff, and I was like, you need to reprint this every cluster. Every set, if this is going to work properly. And they were like, oh yeah, no, that shouldn't be a problem. And then for V3, I asked them to put it on the order sheet. I was like, can you put the starter decks on the order sheet again? But I requested and like got angry and requested and like told Edgy, told the printing company. I was like, guys, you're limiting your own sales right now. Like, do you realize I just got you like 40,000 views of new players that are like card game players interested in playing your game, and you're missing out on sales because you didn't make enough of something. And then, not to like deliberate the point, but like even as we got closer and we started actually getting pre-orders in for V0, I was like, you need to increase the multiplier by a lot, because like I put a lot of energy and effort, and AG did as well, into like hyping up these new Valhalla, and it really did pay off, but like it had the issue of people wanted it and couldn't get it. And that's why I was okay when they told me that the willpower rewards were going to be the new rulers. So I was like, okay, at least you'll be able to get the rulers. But they didn't tell me at first there was only going to be half of them and all the other stuff. But it's an issue that, yes, if you want to play the most modern top tier, whatever, but like I have a buddy in New York, Martin, there, who built up a scene, and he's just been buying old stuff, and like it's not just current Force of Will that's fun. Like old Force of Will is fun too. Like Rhea, I think you can still get Rhea starters, and like even I know you can't play in the New Frontiers, but like the Alice starters and the Lapis starters are both really good too. Like they're fun to play. When I got back into Force of Will, like when I came back to the U.S. for a little bit, my buddy and I bought Valentina 1 and Priscia 1, and like we just played against each other, and I was like, this game is really fun. It like they had Regalia and whatever, but it was just the gameplay itself was fun. So I think right now it might be expensive to get in competitively, but even then, like casually, it's still super easy to jump into. You can, I think Rudy sells like those packs of like everybody bought a bunch of like older stuff from this era for like pennies on the dollar, so you can get that stuff super cheap still.
Well, yeah, if you want to play a Rhea starter deck ruler, you're set. You just need like what, a quarter? I think it's 25 cents. Or if you want an Uber, you only need $1.50.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, I got a bunch of IUs if anyone needs them, but Like the I think that I'm not justifying what's going on right now because I obviously do think they need to reprint. But if you're going to play competitively, I think you're a little bit more okay to justify spending a couple extra bucks to like buy into the high competitive thing. And while it would be nice if the competitive starters were also widely available, it's kind of like, this is what we got. So if you do want to jump in, you easily can, but you may have to either wait a little bit or try and find the rulers and runes and whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't know. In the US, can you buy singles of like the runes from the starter decks and stuff at a reasonable price? Or are most people...
Not anymore. I think initially when the starters first came out, you were able to find them on things like TCG Player. But I checked the other day just for a couple cards. Like I was building 2 different Brunhild decks, and I was like, I need 3 more air, and like air's going for like a lot of whatever. One seller's only selling it, so it's gone down. It's like the people who have stock has gone down, but yeah. But I think on the idea of it real quick is that even our locals, we're getting a lot of new players, and some of it is thanks like to the stuff that you had done with talking to Rudy, or even Rudy had done independently of buying from that one group. There you go. And was just causing the traffic to come in, and so some of them are even just making it work on their own. They're like, well, can't get the new starters. You know what? Rhea looks cool, or Tigers looks cool. I'm gonna build these, and they're showing to our locals just to play, and they're doing well. They don't need the new rulers, but it does help.
Yeah, if you got the hype factor, like if I got hyped on, like when I first got hyped on, say Pokemon, I didn't go for the competitive deck. I liked Charizard, so I just went and grabbed Charizards. And same with Force of Will. I like.
12 by any chance?
Huh?
Were you 12 by any chance?
Anyways,
like plus 15 years on that.
Charizard Pyroar had just topped at Worlds, so. But at first it was the same thing, like, huh?
Remember the 1998 Charizard?
Which one was that, Oscar?
8th set, 100 damage, fire spin.
First one, 4 energy.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't around for that. It was before his time.
No, I was not. I tried to get into Pokemon as a kid, and I was not allowed to because you know how.
Demons matter.
Yeah. But
it's damn demons.
Golly, I got into Yu-Gi-Oh and never told my parents and just hid the cards. I had the cards hidden in a box in my closet and would bring it to school each day.
Like, meanwhile, like the kids are like, "Oh man, Erica's hairstyle is so cute. Oh, Blossom's really strong." That's Satan's work, son. And then you're like, "I send you to the Shadow Realm where I'll eat your soul."
Play Summon Skull. It's
for anyone who don't know, it's because Pokemon promotes evolution. If anyone's wondering, but, like straight up, that's what. But should probably do the next question, Oscar.
Yeah, we should get back.
So I'll point out I was allowed to play Pokemon, and I was collecting from day one.
I have the lash marks to show it.
But next question is, with you gone, will things like pre-errata table flips be more likely to slip through the cracks?
Unfortunately, yeah. I think the translator that I hired is still gonna work part-time, like on the side maybe. But I think but he translates directly, but the problem is that the Japanese cards are actually really poorly written. And so generally, like I would go through, he does the base, like get it done, because that's just grunt work. And then I would kind of change names that I liked, or like make just cooler sounding words, etc. And then kind of go through, and during the translation into the other languages, we would all kind of pick out if there was like a wording or ruling issue, etc. And the issue is no one besides me really had the power to change the cards to be like, no, we're going to change, like, because I run the judge side too, right? So I could tell, like, Hirata to be like, I'm changing this, or find a wording that makes this card do what I want it to do, kind of thing. And without someone there to kind of tell them, like, what's too strong and what's not, because they honestly don't really think too much about that. They're just like, make it and it's fun. And so, like, they don't necessarily consider, like, what's too strong or whatever. So one of the very last things I did when I still had any company power is to just be like, change this, find a wording. I don't care what you do it now. And we got to errata it and change it before it came out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's my biggest concern. My number one biggest concern, honestly, is without me, I don't know how they're going to do the ban list.
Oh.
That was my baby. Like, I had to fight to even have them start making it. I made all the rules for it. I'm the one who, like, centered it. Obviously, you guys know I got, like, Ryan and stuff and other people that shall remain nameless to help work on it. And, like, and then obviously I would take all their suggestions and then kind of put it through the filter of how do I want the game to be played. And obviously, like, the company had some reservations about certain things as well. So, like, run it through that filter and then what I could output. But the thing was, like, that was a constant, like, I had a private untapped server where I could test, like, my own metas and everything. And, like, I could test future cards and all that. And that, you know, I had to turn off my private server because I didn't want to pay for it anymore if I'm not doing it. But, like, that amount of effort, I don't think anyone else in the company now will put into that. So that's my biggest concern.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of anything of me being gone, that was my biggest concern was, fuck, if I'm not here, I really hope that design is okay. Because I know future design, but only so far. Yeah, go ahead.
Is let's say
Real quick,
this
Joey,
does start to happen.
He's not a professor right now. You don't have to raise.
I know, but I just figured, you know, I didn't want to
It automatically, like, catches my eye. I'm like,
yeah, exactly. It's like it's.
I just thought it was
such
really
a
funny.
good. It's such a good system, and then we just get rid of it after we're like adults
in class,
and stuff. It's
yeah.
like, no, like, I don't know. I think it's so funny. I've thought about it before, but okay. So when, let's say that this does happen, when do you think we could start seeing, like, effects of that? Like, do you think the next two sets are, like, okay power level wise, or do you think some new crazy stuff could slip through the cracks as soon as, like, 3 sets, 4 sets?
So when I left, V3's done. I still have the artwork and stuff. It's really pretty. But I told you guys before, and I said it in streams, V3 is very strong. I did not change almost anything besides Sprout and a couple other cards. And Sprout's still stronger than I like. But, like,
I was gonna say, yeah, if Sprout is the fixed version of it.
I mean, dude, like, you know what OG Sprout does? It just comes into play and makes 3, like, without having to wait. And then you can banish it. There's, like... And I'd actually, when they gave me the original design, which only had the names of cards, no effects, just artwork details, I was like, problem! Don't remake this card with this effect. And, like, then he was like, oh, okay, I'll consider that. And then he comes to me with the final one. I'm like, you didn't change anything! You just made mistakes! I thought, actually, at first I thought that they did weaken it a little bit. And they did, legitimately, but not to the point where I was satisfied. And I was kind of hoping that it would have a exile the card rather than a discard, so you couldn't turn to a Brunhild, reanimate, and or just, like, Misty. So, like, this is kind of good. Like, that's not the only good white card in the set either, so it's like... But, yeah, anyways, so I but like, so they've been complaining to me for a while that I was making cards too fair, like that were boring, because the sales team thinks that people just want to buy broken cards, and so like they're like, oh, these sales are down because there's no there's no strong cards in it, like there's no that like, honest to God, the sales team loves Scheherazade, Reflect Refrain, Bahamut, like all of the things that players hate and think destroyed the game. They think people love because the initial reaction, right, is always everybody goes and buys the cards really quick because they need it to win. They haven't processed the damage that follows those interactions as well. And so my philosophy was like, I'm going to let you kind of do what you want a little bit, and I'm just going to ban everything that you fuck up afterwards. And so, like, that was just kind of my philosophy. Like, they're the pre, and they don't like me getting too involved in it. So I was like, all right, I'll be the post, and that's fine. And so I think I'm not too worried, because I feel like if it got super bad, I still know the people behind the scenes, so I could message them and be like, update the ban list. This is good for the game. And it might take some convincing, but I honestly don't think they would put up too much of a fight about it, because to them it's so minor, and to us it's so major. So I think it's one of those things.
Yeah, I don't know if we physically could revive our locals a fourth time. I think 3 might be our limit. Like, both jokingly and straight up. I think this is the last one. So hopefully they know that.
I will say, just as a side, because a lot of people talk about like, bringing locals back and everything else, and I had a really good conversation with a LGS owner one time talking about Force of Will, and he made the comment that there is a large group of TCG players that they basically just jump from game to game while the meta is unknown, and they can kind of play garbage decks and do okay. But once a game kind of becomes more solidified and players get like better, and kind of there becomes an acknowledgeable, this person is better than this person, there are a lot of people with very, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but a lot of people have very fragile egos, and so they really can't stomach losing, and they feel like it's a weakness on their behalf, and they don't want to look at that weakness or experience it. And so if they continue to jump to the new game and the new thing, they can kind of swim in this constantly unknown, underdeveloped kind of metagame of games. And that's where they thrive. Not necessarily on the specifics of any given game, but just on the experience of not feeling bad. And as you guys probably know, like, Force of Will has some of the least amount of RNG in any like competitive trading game. And so like it honestly weeds out bad players very quickly, or not weeds them out, but it shows bad players that they are bad players very quickly. And so I do think that's one of the drawbacks of the game. Like, I love it, and generally, like, we see a lot of competitive players love Force of Will, but the people that are in it for money or just wins, like kind of scrubby, not really great players, like your tier 2 player, your B player trying to beat C player kind of guys, they generally don't last very long because of that. Because they're really not able to thrive in that environment, because they do get pushed out and punished very quickly. I remember actually I got frustrated in Magic a couple years now. 10 years ago, it was a couple years, but there was a format where El Ruzi was the elf. It was a regenerating elf deck, and I was playing the control deck. And I remember I was so frustrated because this elf deck went wide, and I was like, if I draw not Wrath of God at the time, Day of Judgment, which is a wrath without regeneration clause. And I thought to myself, like, he didn't leave any mana up for regeneration. And I was like, this is the perfect chance for me to punish a bad player for playing poorly and kind of show them this is why you don't overextend. But RNG, like, not enough stones, not enough lands. Now I'm like proper draws, and it was just like, you're going to win this game even though you played horribly because RNG favored you. And that, to me, drove me insane. And that wasn't like what made me get angry at Magic, but it was just like, it showed me that there is more RNG and luck. And that's why it's probably more popular, because bad players can do better. There's more RNG, there's more variance. So the worst player in the world can beat the best player in the world if the best doesn't draw any lands or draws all lands. And that's not going to happen in Force of Will. You're always going to draw gas, or at least some kind of card that does something. And you have a ruler that generally has effects. And so it's not just I got things and you didn't, but it's how did I optimally use them, and was there any mind games, etc. So I do think that Force of Will actually, in that way, is its own worst enemy to some like casual players, and I think that hurts locals a lot when you have these players that just jump from game to game, like, oh, Dragon Ball's new, I can play that and not suck for a year, so I'll do that. Oh, now I'm losing all the time. All right, now what's this new one? Transformers. All right, I'm going to play this game now. And Argent Saga comes out. Okay, I'm going to play this one now. And each time, like, I think I talked about this before, but, like, it takes a game about a year or two where the investors are all jumping in, trying to make a quick buck, and every game is like that. You had Sports was like that, Dragon Ball Super was like that. I don't know how Transformers is doing, but, like, Argent Saga is going to come out soon. People are super excited about that. Like, all Final Fantasy, etc. Like
Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Star Wars.
I tried to get a couple of my friends into Force Will, like, oh, we're playing Star Wars, and probably can do the next fucking Magic Gathering. And I stopped back at the shop a couple of years ago when they stopped in America, and I'm like, you guys still doing that Star Wars thing? Like,
I just remember it.
Well, you know, that game that you... So, I think there's a lot to be said. And the thing is, people have such short memories, and they don't recognize the patterns, and they don't really look at themselves and be like, wow, I'm a bad player. I want to get better. And that's okay. Some people just want to play and have fun and don't give a shit and just want to like, do. But I think you have to have the right kind of people at a locals to really have a thriving game. Like, the reason why there's always a Force of Will locals wherever I go is because I kind of make it, and then everyone just likes my energy and like being around, and then it's just like, all right, well, I want to go and just hang out with my friends, so we do that. So that's just my thoughts on the local stuff.
Yeah. Oscar's the one with that energy.
Am I?
Only if someone mentions epic stories, then all of a sudden Oscar's like, whoop.
My eyes light up, yeah.
You got me into it for a little while, and then I realized I can't remember the name of 60 cards. So I was like, all right. Like, I can go through and like make it in real life, but I'm screwed. I can't remember 60 different card names online.
Yeah.
Next one, Oscar.
Actually, I was going to ask a question.
Oh.
Are you still gonna run, or is this kind of no longer a thing? The online tournament series that you're.
Hey, I still have my. I still have my little promo packs.
So put.
I suppose. This isn't as useful nowadays. But I think I put some good cards in these. Like, I put the
Ascended Ruler,
Japanese Sanofi and stuff, and I think some of them I put. Hold on, let's see. That one's boring. Oh, this one. Wait. Oh man, I was doing that. I put Uber Welser, Uber Scarlet, Alisaris, and JP Milfu. I think for one of them I put like Cuckoo. Another one I put the OG Sprout. So it's honestly right now I like Colin. I think you know, and maybe Oscar. I told you as well, but like I'm relatively preoccupied with some personal stuff right now outside of work. So doing that, and I figured everyone was kind of burnt out from the OGP or whatever it was called, because that was really time intensive, and it was kind of it was a good event, but it was kind of messy, and there was some changes and whatnot. So if I was to do it, like I'd want to make a website and really kind of put it together nicely and run it well. And I don't know if I'm going to have time to for the time being, because I'm actually teaching a couple new courses next semester, so I want to get all that prepared as well. But it's on the to-do list. It's not forgotten. I'm just slow. I just sent out the V2 promotional stuff last week because I had it, and I'm like, all right, well, the company's not going to send these out, so I guess I'm going to do it now. So doing some extra stuff, but I would like to do it at some point, but I don't know when.
I gotcha.
Yet.